Hello, Austen Riggs. It's Daniel Adams from Mass Live Media. How are you? I chose this platform to respond to your latest round of questioning. We actually did this in the beginning, so I thought we'd actually bookend it at the back. There's a lot of questions, and I think things like tone and inflection count for a lot. I also hope that this serves as a demonstration of the power of video and its ability to communicate effectively really important segments of information. So without further ado, I built this video. It will introduce the question you asked, and then I'll respond to it. Let's get into it. All right, so question one, let's dive right in. What a great question to start with. I want to avoid being too complex, and I want to avoid being too long, and I think this question could potentially tempt me to do both. If I may start at the beginning by I think metaphorically, I'd like to use the building of a house or a building as a metaphor throughout this entire video presentation. I think it's the most helpful. At the end of the day, I think it's really important to understand that the only glimpse somebody might ever get into Austen Riggs is through your website. And in that way, it may be, from a digital perspective, the most personal expression of the brand, of the organization, more than really any other sort of creative or digital asset that you'll have. And obviously that's why you're putting as much thought and effort into this as you are. I believe everybody understands that. And so from that perspective, we really believe that at the end of the day, this website truly needs to be an extension of Austen Riggs. We think it needs to be authentic and true. I don't know if you've ever had that experience before where you end up on a website where it just feels inconsistent. Like somebody might have done some great design, but it just doesn't feel like the brand. And so I think what's really important is we start from a place of yes, right? With you as the client and coming alongside. Really the most important thing here is organization, right? As we're going to be interacting with your clinicians and different people providing content, and are people optimizing it for SEO purposes? We're going to get into questions later on about how we might take a piece of written text and turn that into an infographic. But I think it starts with organization. If you had a project software in mind, we're certainly willing to adapt to that, right? We use Microsoft Teams. We'd be happy to introduce you to that platform, and that would allow us a centralized place to access documents, upload documents, particularly from a content perspective, keep things very organized. And then I think the other portion that's really, really inherent here is a good project manager. You haven't even had the opportunity to meet Kelly DeFore yet, who's our major accounts coordinator, project manager. She's the best I've ever worked with, and I guarantee she is going to keep everyone on time. Her clear, concise communication is something that I think you all will very much appreciate. But really, in terms of sort of articulating how we'll work with your team throughout the process, again, that SEO and web dev team we have working in harmony with one another, you're going to produce content, and then we're going to take that content, optimize it from an SEO standpoint, and then submit it back to you for review. And all of that happening efficiently really relies on good organization. So I think we need to adopt the right technology on the platform, and then make sure that we have really talented people on our end scheduling things. And we have both of those things. And again, there's flexibility there to meet you where you're at and ultimately serve you in the best way possible. Okay, question number two. This is a very subjective question. How will we take your historically text-based approach and make it more visual? There's two mediums I see for us being able to do that really effectively, and it's really going to be video and infographics. I think there's going to be a certain content that we generate that might feel, whether it's long-winded or whether it feels, how do we take this really important piece of information and, clear it up, right? Clear, concise, powerful. I think infographics can do that very well. Ultimately, I think what we need to think about on the visual side is where somebody's going to be coming to the website from, right? An organic search where somebody lands on your homepage is different than somebody who might be in the throes of mental illness, addiction recovery. There's a crisis going on, right? When somebody reaches out to you, somebody's out there searching. And so they're going to come to a landing page. And so I think in a landing page, we have to think about, again, being clear and concise, authentic and thoughtful. And so, on your landing pages, I would expect like some sort of welcoming video from a clinician or part of the leadership there. along with some case study, perhaps an infographic and a little bit of text. I think your landing pages need to be tight so that somebody who's searching and comes there can find information quickly. This visual approach we'll take throughout the rest of the site. Certainly we want to think about the overall aesthetic. One of the things that we want to think when we're using images and video is constantly thinking about site speed. So we don't want a website that's just completely based on media that takes a long time to load. And so all of these factors, right, like ongoing, I think one of the things that we bring to the table is understanding how what we might do in the foundational build of the website, how that could lead to potential problems down the line, right? So we don't say yes to something on day 5 that's going to cause a problem in the build on day 15. And I believe we do a phenomenal job helping, giving you the options, helping weigh the pros and cons about when to take the text and turn it into a visual, when that would be more compelling. Like that consultation that will happen throughout the website build, I think is invaluable. But just in terms of specifically how we'll take your text-based approach, is going to be through infographics and videos specifically that will accomplish both those things. And yes, we would be doing those things for you. All right, so for WCAG compliance, Tiana Marr has actually helped come alongside here. I'm going to read her response off the computer here because there's a lot of technical information. I want to make sure we get this spot on. So the third-party partner we use is a group called User First. They offer advanced and comprehensive web accessibility SaaS solutions for a number of different industries, including education, healthcare, the financial sector, retail, as well as government. Here's some key features we like with them as a partner. First is the indemnity that they provide. They provide an indemnity that exceeds most, if not all, competitors in the industry and cover you up to 4 times of your accessibility investment. They offer automated and manual testing. So before they actually implement the remediation technology on your site, they have actual developers and users with disabilities that go out and test to make sure they catch any issue before implementation. I can't overstate how valuable that process is in and of itself. Third is credibility. They partner with some really large organizations like T-Mobile, Leashes of Valor, and the Kessler Foundation. That's T-Mobile, Leashes of Valor, leashes like a dog leash, and the Kessler Foundation. So check out some of those sites if you'd like to. How the process works. So step 1 is we'll coordinate with User First during the development in order to map out the site and make sure that there's access to the accessibility engine. This is obviously all in response to the Americans with Disabilities Act, right? So we're all on the same page. Second is the manual testing, both manual and automated. So they're going to have some page crawlers as well as the manual testing. Step 3, there will be an implementation by adding a script tag into the website. And then in the 4th step, we will actually make sure that there's a handoff between the folks at User First and Austen Riggs, because they will remain your partner for as long as the duration of you having accessibility on the site, which assuming is into the distant future. So we'll make that handoff in the relationship. Obviously, we can continue to manage that relationship for as long as our professional agreement lasts. So there you are. Hope that covers WCAG compliance and web accessibility issues. All right, question number 4, and I'm actually going to break it up 4A and 4B. So 4A, you referred to it as SEO maintenance. First of all, let me break down SEO into 2 different groups. There's on-page SEO, which is what we will be doing throughout the website build. That is your website being optimized from an SEO perspective for search engines, search engine results pages, everything that you need to be put in the best possible situation from an SEO perspective, you will receive from us. You are getting SEO as part of the website build. Now, off-page SEO or ongoing SEO, I think was the question. Because of the way that we conduct SEO, I can't forecast a price, because one of the things that we're going to do for you included in this website build is actually an SEO audit. And what we're going to develop for you is a playbook. It's yours to keep. If you contract with us as the group to do your SEO moving forward, we hope you do. Great. If not, it's yours to keep. But it is an SEO audit that will clearly map out and define exactly what the SEO strategy needs to be. And yes, it includes consultation. Yes, it includes new content creation. It includes updates based on Google algorithms. It includes all of that. But we will actually have that document in our hand once we get into building the site. An SEO audit is not light work. We have clients often that will come in contract with us just for an SEO audit for that service. It's part of what we'll do as per the website build. But I hope that answers that question. I can't get into price now because we would ultimately lean on what the monthly cost would be once completing an SEO audit. Right, question 4B. I consulted with Chris for this and he gave me a very detailed answer. I tried memorizing it, but not quite there. So in terms of question 4B, a difficult question to answer because some of it's outside of the scope of the website build. Some of it, the context for the question is what you're going to get as a result of the build. So let me sort of repeat back to you what Chris told me here. So detecting and fixing broken links would fall under our site maintenance services. So that would, if you're our service agreement. But if you're just looking for a monthly audit and remediation for broken links, then the costing would be $50 a month to fix broken links. We could also put into place a standard maintenance agreement that would include that service. But in addition, our standard maintenance package, it starts at basically a retention, 2 hours a month you get of web development work that's billed at $125 an hour, so $250 a month. And under that standard maintenance agreement, we will add, edit, or remove pages, copy or add image edits on the site, use image or carousel slider creation and design. We would do basic navigation updates, basic theme and styling updates, add edit forms, form submission extracts. We'll get into that in HIPAA compliance in a moment. WordPress configuration and plugin updates. You'll get additional WordPress training and support, consultation, and strategic recommendations for the website on a month-to-month basis. Security would be covered under our hosting services. So if you wanted to host with us, we host our site on robust servers with ample RAM and solid-state drive roles that reside within a Tier 1 hosting provider. There's, fully managed servers. Our production sites are backed up multiple times per week, and backups are stored off-site via Amazon Web Services. We maintain multiple daily and monthly backups. Our servers also have advanced DDoS attack protection and server security plus. We also offer features like service hardening, secured access, brute force detection and prevention. In addition, with our security services, we'll run monitoring and backup services with WordFence security, vulnerability update monitoring. Infinite WordPress and WordFence security are used in tandem, so critical updates can be detected quickly and updates applied across all of our hosted sites. So when you host with us, you get a lot. And if you include that maintenance agreement at $250 a month, I think that was a detailed way of saying you are covered, right? And we'll actually come in and consult with you on a month-to-month basis, just so that's not an annual contract either. If you wanted to start that way in the beginning, make sure the value was there, make sure you were covered, just 360 degrees. I would strongly recommend that you tap us as that partner, right? And let us consult with you in the early going. I'm certain we're going to find some small tweaks, and it would be nice if you had a team behind you that could just make those changes quickly. Question 5. I get a nice short answer here. The answer is yes. We can do all that. We've got some plugins for the WordPress site that would allow you to search all of the content, John and team, to make the necessary updates. I know you had to change things recently like admissions, phone numbers, and contact info. So yeah, not only making those changes, but searching for when the last time you made the change, so it's nice, neat, organized. Obviously, we would onboard you with that training, but yes is the question there. That was an easy one. All right, question 6. This relates to our servers, right? Again, Chris came in and answered this question, and so we lease our servers from Liquid Web, fully managed servers that are HIPAA compliant. And Chris could actually walk you through that HIPAA compliance. Like, for instance, when somebody fills out a form in your email, if you wanted a description of what they were facing, a potential patient, they could fill out their contact information. But what we could do is, so that medical information was not being communicated via email, you'd learn that you had a new lead. And then if you wanted to learn more about that lead, you could actually log into the site, and the information that they filled out on the form fill would be secured there, keeping you HIPAA compliant. But in addition, our hosting features would include fully secure and HIPAA compliant servers, no redirects to third-party websites, built and managed forms from WordPress, integrates with Gravity Forms, which is really nice, optional drag and draw signatures, ability to separate forms by location, ability to separate forms by doctor, create secure PDFs of submitted forms, and secure unlimited file upload options. That hosting agreement is $1,200 a year, and it's quite comprehensive, and I think most importantly, HIPAA compliant. Okay, question 7, understanding how your constituents will interact with the website. Very interesting question given the state of affairs nationally right now, and what's going on with user privacy. I think the best way we're going to be able to help you here is by working with you to establish goals through your Google Analytics. It's an easy thing to say. It's a much more difficult thing to execute. I think that statement could apply to the rest of this entire website build. At the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be the best idea. I think it's going to be the highest level of execution. And so Google Analytics is going to be honest, with you, going to be the best way to understand how a user is engaging on your website. And we can set up different goals, and it doesn't always have to be conversion based. There's multiple goals that we can set up, and by accomplishing the goal, it will tell us about a particular type of behavior once someone visits. Even though we'll use things like the site using cookies, one of the things that everybody needs to understand is that privacy is changing rapidly, and there's nothing I or you or anybody can really do about that. With these large tech companies at the helm, I think they're trending in the right direction. I think things were getting too scary in terms of what they were able to know. And there's a lot of things being done. I don't know if everybody's heard about the California Privacy Act. I'm sure that's going to be something that sweeps the nation in years to come. But even right now, you're allowed to opt out. It depends on what type of browser you're using, right? Chrome as opposed to Safari. Right now in Safari, you could basically block from anybody learning anything about you. And so then it becomes difficult to sort of say how somebody's interacting if you can't collect information on them. So I understand the question and why it's important. Our entire organization is propped up on the data that we collect and the insights we're able to provide there. I do not think you'll be able to find another web developer that has not only access to the data, but also teams that are able to interpret that data. So you get a dedicated analytics and optimization manager as part of this campaign, a guy named Justin Lincoln, really sharp, who will help you establish those goals through your Google Analytics. And really, by the accomplishing of those goals, tweaking those goals on a month-to-month basis, that's ultimately how you're going to best understand how people are interacting with the website. And I think we want to understand differently based on future ad campaigns, right? Because there's going to be different audiences, different pockets of the country, different landing pages. There's going to be this subtle nuance that's really important to understand those subtle differences in user behavior on your website. But unfortunately, for this question, the way things are trending is it's going to really depend on what permission the user has set up on their device when they're searching, right? And then the sort of next level is sort of to understand how would we know if it's somebody like the sufferer from a mental illness perspective or the support system and the behaviors that change there, right? Between Aunt Sally calling for nephew Joey and then Joey himself calling, like understanding who was on, right? I think that'll take some time to develop and start to build these buyer personas so we understand them really well. We're really good at that. But from the start, a lot of it's going to depend on the permissions the user is allowing. General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. Let me just be perfectly transparent. We and you should consult with your legal representation and understanding exactly, what that should look like. This really pertains to phase 2.0, like when you start going out and marketing. You'll need to think about these things. Like you said, you're not even sure if you'll be geographically in that region, but this is more of a legal question. Once that is decided for the organization, like what's best for us, what's the best fit for us, we can certainly implement and make sure you're within those guidelines. But in terms of insight or recommendation, that's not necessarily our wheelhouse. All right, next question. I love this. If you've gone through that exercise and you understand that even though, maybe you'd like to attract people higher in the funnel, I think SEO efforts will take care of that. We know that you've been running a search campaign, and it would make sense, right, through some of the mapping exercises that you've done, if most of the traffic that you're tracking from a search perspective, or if that's where most of the traffic is coming is from search, well, certainly when somebody's searching actively for a solution, they're going to click on an ad. They are at a point of despair. My first thing is in wondering, are you even having the opportunity to meet families or people that might be a bit higher? Or is mental health one of those issues like addiction recovery is, where somebody doesn't actually look for help until things get really bad? And from that perspective, I think it's vital that what your website communicates as an extension of the center itself is a place of hope. I think your content, your videos, the music we choose, the color scheme, it all needs to be grounding. And I think certain websites need to be disruptive. In your case, it needs to be grounding. I think when a visitor lands on a landing page or the home page, I think someone who's in a place that needs help needs to understand that they've arrived at a place that offers hope. And just I do think from a design perspective, an aesthetic, certainly video, websites can accomplish that. And so I really appreciate the question. It sounds like you have some good data in understanding the state in which people arrive on the site. And if you know that, I think it's critical that the website be sort of a lighthouse, if you will, for when people land there, they feel like they're getting closer to an answer. I don't know how many people know this topic is near and dear to my heart. I lost a friend to mental health about 8 years ago. It's in my family, and so some of the practical implications and the way that it affects that greater dynamic I get. And so when somebody comes on the site, beacon of hope, lighthouse, that's what I think the site needs to communicate, and we would work with you to that end. Again, to go back to the building analogy, this is ultimately an extension of Austen Riggs, and so I think working closely, collaborating closely with clinicians, healthcare professionals that are at Austen Riggs is going to be the best way to make sure that we authentically reflect the mission, vision, and values of the organization. Big picture role in terms of the website, I envision your website being your next full-time hire in terms of business development, and potentially even like a digital case manager. I actually see it filling both of those roles. I don't think the role of your website moving forward from a big picture view can be overstated. Given, even what we're going through right now as a country, never mind that, as really the world. The adoption of digital platforms has never seen this kind of acceleration other than maybe the advent of the internet itself. But people are getting more and more comfortable going online. I said at the beginning that your website might be the only glimpse somebody ever gets into Austen Riggs. So in terms of like the role it's going to play, it's going to be like your message board, your megaphone, your salesperson, your casework. I just see it checking a lot of boxes. Now in terms of visibility, everything that we do in terms of visibility, whether that's videos on YouTube, organic social media strategy, where maybe we taper off of the white paper scientific approach and give the brand a lighter voice. The white paper approach, where we're backlinking to medical journals and industry-specific publications, all leads back to Rome. all roads lead back to Rome. All those paths lead back to the website. Your website is the central hub for those other things that are ultimately going to increase your visibility in the short term. In the short term, we're going to have to get into paid advertising efforts that take your marketing and declare a message. Your website is going to be the branding, the magnet, the attraction, what you stand for. And so I think your marketing aligning with your branding is really important. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, that short-term sprint we're going to do with advertising relies 100% on your website. After we've been engaged in some ongoing SEO efforts, what you're going to see is your website start to boost up the organic rankings. And it's a different type of person that comes and skips the ads and goes down to the organic rankings. But nevertheless, your website is still going to be central in attracting those folks and communicating the message you need to. So I just don't think the importance of your website for the future success of Austen Riggs, its stakeholders, its constituents, its employee, everyone, I just don't think the importance of the website can be stated too much. Great question. Let me go with it. We've learned a lot, right? I could list dozens of things. Every time I work with a client, you learn a little bit something new, right? So, but what's the most important thing that we've learned as an organization? I think it's that content is king. You not only does it need to be good content, but it needs to be consistent content. And what we found is that people really want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And I would imagine that the Austen Riggs Center has a ton of success stories that could be shared on places through video, on the website, on social, obviously with permission from the patient. But I think content is the most important driver in terms of increasing your site's visibility over time and integrating that content with the website and making sure that as you progress in the field and come up with new insights, and maybe that relates to the content you're producing, that the website keeps pace with those changes and updates. And so content, by far, the most important thing that you have to subscribe to. There has to be an ongoing message, weekly, monthly, quarterly, that informs visitors and supporters of the site exactly what's going on at Austen Riggs today. Right, next question. To get back to my building analogy, I'm in my office right now. We just moved into this home 2 weeks ago. Very blessed, love it. Outside is the kitchen, upstairs is the bedroom. If you took individual snapshots of each one of those places, they'd be 3 very different rooms. They work together as a home, but they also serve very different purposes. And so in terms of wanting to be about patient care while also being a champion for increasing access to care, right? It's all going to depend on how we set up the website. And I do think that a website should be able to do multiple things at the same time in an excellent way. And I think there's a fine line, that art between becoming a Swiss Army knife, where you're not saying anything because you're saying everything, and then understanding that we have a few different areas that are passionate to our brand, and we want to be able to articulate those and be thought leaders in almost like 2 different segments. I absolutely think you can do that. And the reason why is because you have different personas, right? You have patients and you have staff. You're going to have different types of people that are going to be visiting the website. And where they funnel in from, the more effectively we can funnel a visitor to the right section of the site, the more effectively we'll be able to represent you as a thought leader in 2 different sort of spaces at the same time. And, you know, we can do that through, again, we're talking about SEO, we talk about search, we talk about social. Every one of those platforms has a, you know, there's some crossover certainly, but different people exist on those platforms. And so the constant updating and building an integration of landing pages, again, making sure that when somebody gets to the site, it's very specific to what they're there for, right? Making sure that the content that they're linking in from correlates with the page that they're viewing on the site. So I do think it's possible. I think it's important that you do both things simultaneously. This is where good design comes in, and making sure that the website is positioned structurally like my house is, where you have different rooms that achieve a different purpose, but at the end of the day blends seamlessly to create a single structure. So I thought that building metaphor was going to be helpful at the beginning of this, and I hope that was. All right, second to last question. Here's how we can partner with you to increase the Austen Riggs brand. You know, we are expert web developers, but behind us is an organization called Advanced Local. We are the largest privately held media company in the country. We have access to over 40 million unique visitors, over 171 million first-party data cookies. We own websites like Reddit, NJ.com, Michigan, Oregon, Alabama. In New York City, we have Staten Island. We have the Boston Business Journal. We have Golf Digest, right? You have this huge mountain of media behind your website. And so we can leverage any one of those properties. Remember, they're owned and operated properties, and we're privately held, so I have access to these platforms. If we need to get a message out in New Jersey, I've got a website that attracts 15 million people a month between New York City and New Jersey to its site. Same thing for Pennsylvania, a place like Philadelphia. So I think where we can be helpful is just in the nature of who we are. I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on Mass Live, but we're, attracting 8.5 million visitors a month to the site. Pardon me there. We overtook the Boston Globe media sites month before last. We actually did that twice in a calendar year. So we are making investments in our brand. We are growing by leaps and bounds, and you could grow with us. And that's what we think that we offer you that nobody else can. The expertise to build this site, but then you have access to all of our platforms in terms of increasing that website's visibility. And we'd love to partner with you once the website's done to ensure that happens. All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay, final question. Here we go, coming down the home stretch. We do not feel like there's a need to increase the budget at all or reforecast in terms of what we think the project cost here is. We really sharpened our pencil and came up with the most aggressive rate we possibly could, and we feel good about that. In response to your second question, if we needed to add an addendum to the agreement, I don't think we would be opposed to that. The encouraging news is a policy like that doesn't currently exist because we've actually never missed a website development deadline. I don't know how that rings for you on the other end of this video. It's a point of pride here. We take that very seriously. We know how important websites are to businesses. I think it also speaks to the size of our organization and the ability to come in and push things across the line through a group effort, just a bunch of skilled folks working in harmony to complete projects. If ever we have, missed a deadline with the website, it's been honestly because a client who missed would tell you they simply just didn't respond to something we needed, whether that was a checking off on a proof or providing us a piece of content that was required. And so, really smart folks on that end of the camera there at Austen Riggs, under some fantastic project management here from John Zollinger. I do not anticipate that being an issue in this build whatsoever. So that's the end of the video. Thank you all so much. We are excited to hear back from you at the beginning of next week. If at all there was any portion of this video that you believe needs further clarification, please feel free to reach out to myself, Chris Eastway, Rob Madrid, Tiana Marr, our Vice President Gareth Charter. This has been a pleasure. It's our honor to respond to this RFP and to potentially partner with a group that does the kind of work that you all do, really changing people's lives. So appreciate what you all do. Hope you have a wonderful day, fantastic weekend. We'll talk to you soon.